say you have reported that. So about the fonts, I'm going to give you a link right now, and it can be done using a CSS style. So I will give you, and then I'm going to answer you specifically to that question. So let's go to ProcessMaker here, and I want to check the part of CSS. Okay, so please look at this. This is the part of skins, and the skins are a collection of CSS files that we modify to show this to the final user. I'm talking about as a way to show, to present this to this file, no? But something that you can do here is to check the options available. Okay, so you can download the font and upload in this in one of the current paths that we have here. We have in public HTML and libraries the fonts. You can upload a file here to enter a font here. By now we have this type of fonts, and you can modify the user skin also. But if you go to the wiki page here, you're going to find the possibility to modify the style, the font. There is a way. I'm going to the talk here and show you how it works. So this is when we create a skin, it's going to have a CSS styles, so CSS classes, and from these CSS, and by using that we can make some changes, some configurations. So one of them is going to be the
Chạy đến bước nào rồi?
customizing, for instance, forms in ProcessMaker.
Thôi mày
So
cố
you
chạy
are
đi, chị đi
going
về.
to go here to this
Tức là vẫn chưa đến cái bước 3 cái bước
path
cuối cùng
to
đúng không?
modify.
Chưa đến bước mở ngày đúng
In
không?
Linux is going to be
Thì cái bước này là bước lâu nhất đúng không? Sau bước này có
to
bao nhiêu bước
move
nữa?
to the path.
Mấy bước kia là khoảng bao nhiêu lâu?
In Linux to
Nhanh đúng không? Mình chỉ nhớ là mấy
modify
bước kia
it,
chỉ khoảng 10
I
phút.
will move on to the
Khoảng
following
10 phút
path.
thì thấy 10 lần thằng Thu nó chạy rất nhanh. Chỉ có một cái
ProcessMaker
bước này là bước
share.
lâu nhất. Bây giờ 6 rưỡi rồi. Thì cố gắng chạy nhá, xong cố gắng xuất sao kê cho chị nhá. 8 giờ sáng mai bọn chị đi làm.
Skin is a skin name.
Thank you.
So I'm going to have a file here where I create a skin. If I create a skin, you're going to have this here, and in one of the files, if I create a skin, I'm going to have a file where I can modify the fonts or styles. I'm going to get access to the CSS. Let's try something here. Let's suppose that I'm going to modify my skin here. I'm going to create a new skin here. For instance, skins, new font, and the folder name is going to be new font, and the author is going to be ProcessMaker, and the base skin, I'm going to use the neo class to take that as a base for that. Then I'm going to save. It's going to be used for all workspaces, and I create a new skin. So by using that, I can move on, and you're going to have here a new font. I am going to apply CMH on the permission here for this file. It's very a little more advanced topic, so I'm going to discuss it. And you're going to have that in the path. Now it is enabled. So this is my new scheme created, and in CSS, in these files, I'm going to be able to modify as I want the styles and fonts. So by using that, okay, I'm going to be able to modify in style CSS. I'm going to open this file, and then I have the possibility to make some changes here. For instance, I want the font weight to make it 200, for instance, and I'm going to modify it. And this is going to give me the font family and many things. No, it is based on the neoclassic scheme. As I tell you, a scheme is a collection of CSS classes. You know? So it's the front end element that we are going to show in ProcessMaker. And here I'm using a scheme. And in this scheme, I'm modifying some CSS files here with the color background. That depends on you. You have some fonts for letters also, but also for images. Okay. For instance, this one is a Tahoma. No? Is a font that I use for Tahoma, and I can modify it to obtain the style that I need. Okay. So this is one of the answers that I can give you. I can modify in this way. So I can, depending on the titles or everything that I'm going to use, I can modify this file and then obtain results in my dynamo. Okay, so this is the main file that you are going to use for your process. And by editing this file, you're going to modify titles in a Dynafront, titles in a... Let's say something. For instance, I'm going to modify for titles, case titles, for instance. So I'm going to group title. And I know that it's a Tahoma, but I can modify it as an area. So I'm going to save it and see what happens. So I'm going to apply this scheme. And I'm going to go to home. To move here. Okay, so this is going to be the new font. This is going to be my scheme here. And let's see if I can obtain, for instance, a difference here of letters. So title, I want to change it as we have some files here. I don't want to make it bold. Color that I want here is blue, for instance. So I'm going to modify one of the parameters here, and let's see what happens with my scheme that I applied here. Apply my scheme. It's active. Log out here. And let's see. If I open any case, for instance, I'm going to choose to make a very different approach here. I'm going to say that this is going to be 0, 0, 0, B 0. I'm modifying this to change one of the parts they have. I'm modifying one of the styles that I have with letters, and I want to make it, for instance, these 10, and it's going to be a Tahoma here. And well, so I'm going to modify all of this here with the code. It's a color code, and let's see what happens if I go to this part. I will apply and then make some cache here. Now let's see. Okay, so you have this possibility to modify it. Let me check if I need to erase the cache here also. To erase my cached files and then move back here. Enter again. Okay, so if I am going to open this, one of the files that I have here is going to be modified. No, that's the point. It's going to be modified, but in this case, it's going to be very different. So I'm going to check this, submit. Just a moment, please. Submit this. Okay, but these are the file that I use for modifying something. For instance, I can modify other things like from the label and everything. So you can customize here you can customize everything here, no, all the typing, the fonts, the sizes here. Okay, so this is one of the options that we use, but this file depends on the skin that we use. So in this case, I am using this skin here, that is new font. So this is my skin, and this is the appropriate skin to modify all the files. So, but what happens if I am going to use, for instance, a different font for, I don't know, for a different thing here. So let's see if I want to modify here. I want another modification. So let's see. Well, okay, so it's a very extensive file, and you're going to find many possibilities to modify your what you need. So you have this opportunity to find that. But I was trying to explain you all these topics about how to modify a font using a CSS file. As I was telling you, the CSS file is depends on the scheme that we create. Okay, so that depends on the. You can find more information in the wiki page about how to use these schemes. Okay, so it's like I'm going to find that class. Okay, it's one of these classes that you need to modify to obtain the modification that you need in. I believe it's this one. Yeah, it's one of these. Okay, just a moment. I'm going to search for it. Two, 23, I'm trying to find the correct. Okay, so in here you're going to be able to find the modification that you need. Okay, so I will try to give you a better answer for this. Yeah, so thanks for all. It works. But did you apply the same, Ken, for this? Did you go to this style? Yes? Did you go through all of this file? Okay, so now the question is solved. Yeah, so the point is that there are many labels, and well, uh, so you have to know where it goes, where it goes. So now this question is solved, I believe, about the skin and the font. So it's great. Yep. Okay. So we clarify one doubt. If you still have this problem of the fonts and everything, let me know it. Okay. The point is that I modify one of these classes, but it goes to one of the titles that we have here. But I really need to know where it goes. Okay. Okay. Maybe it goes in map. Okay. Well, let's move on. We were discussing how to use Dynaforms, how to use language. We talk about many things about that today. So we're going to take a break. Okay. We're going to take a break, and then we are going to move on to the next topic. It's about user management. We have finished the part of Dynaforms. Okay. So by now, I'm very glad that you have found the possibility to use this file, and you can see here that it's just using the some schemes. Then you go to the style.css file, and by using that you are going to be able to modify. Okay, so we're going to have a 15-minute break, and then we move to the next topic. Okay.
You have entered
So we
as
go
an
for a
attendee
break.
in listen-only mode.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We are back. So, well, what comments do you have about these options that we have seen? Could you tell me a reference of everything? I believe that you solved your both problems, the Vietnamese and also the font. So I would like to know some comments about it. In general, to modify or make some changes, uh, the CSS classes are going to be these tasks, are going to do this task. So what comments do you have about this final part of Dyna? I would like to know. I believe that you solved all your problems. So now we can move on to the next part. In general, we support all the Latin scripts. This includes Vietnamese or Turkish or very different letters that we use. Also, we talk about how to use some other resources or other resources. You know? For instance, we talk about the fonts and how to modify. So we have closed this topic. Now we are going to move to the next topic, and it's a very interesting way to this topic is going to be very interesting for you because we are going to discuss about how to use proper user management. So it's the user management that we are going to use here. So let's go on. Well, you have all these options here, but if you go to the admin here, to the admin user, you're going to find a set of options here. Okay, you're going to find out to use the logo, the email servers, and so on. So now what I'm going to do is to teach you how to create users, and then we are going to search for other options available in ProcessMaker. To search to find a user list or create a user, there is a tag here called users. You click here, and you're going to find all of this. This is the list of users. Okay, but when I have the list of users, I'm going to click here to obtain the form to create a user. So in this form, I can add, like, for instance, a name called John Sanders, for instance. And I'm going to use here the username, and here the email can be john.sanders. It can be, yeah, john.sanders at, excuse me, ProcessMaker.com. It's the address, then the zip code, and then the country. It's going to be, for instance, I don't know, it can be, let's put the United States, okay? United States, then region, and then location. It can be Miami. Then I move to the phone, and what I'm doing here is to complete the personal information for this new user that I'm creating, okay? I decided to create a user, and you saw how it works. Now I'm going to enter all this personal information. For instance, the phone number 1345 3456. That depends on you, on the region, and everything that you want to show about this user. Then you've got the position. It can be the finance position, the financial position, and here we the replace it can be the Ian. It's Ian Barrett. Okay. And this is going to be the calendar, and the calendar is going to be a default calendar. I can choose another calendar depending on the calendars that I have, but I prefer to use the default calendar for these use. The status is going to be active, okay, but I can use inactive or vacation. I was forgetting here something. This replaced by, that you can see here, is that, for instance, my current user, John Sanders, is assigned to task 1 in a process. And if this user, for instance, in this process, if John Sanders, the user I'm creating, is assigned to this task, registry supplier details, but then he takes some day off, he's on vacation. So here, the person who is going to be in charge of this task is going to be Ian Barrett, okay? Then you have the calendar, the status, the role, and here the default language. My default language is going to be English, okay? English, and then you have here the costs. This is the cost per hour that I'm going to include. It can be $30. And here I'm going to enter a password, and here re-enter the same password to confirm the passwords. So I'm going to define here, I can include a photo. I can make this user to change the password when he logins again. And in the preferences, I can use the default menu option. It can be home and then in new case. Okay, so when everything is defined here, I can save. I erase this. When I click here on any user, you're going to see that it's possible to apply one of these options. I can see the summary, I can edit a user, I can disable it, it means make it not longer active, or I can modify other alternatives. If I want to make it as part of the authentication, I can authenticate this user. Okay, that depends on the directory server that I use. So yeah, I understand that. Okay, can you import users using authentication sources? You don't create them manually. Yeah, we are going to see that part with LDAP. We are going to see how to import users using LDAP, but this is going to be on Wednesday. Okay, the next our next 3 sessions in the next week. Okay, but in general, I'm showing that there is this possibility to create a user manually. It is one of the options that we have available, so we can use it in that way. I know that in authentication sources you can create and you can import users, and all these users are from a specific server and a database. But right now there is this option of creating manually. Maybe you can have this case. When I click here, you're going to see that these options are available. I can make the summary, I can edit, I can disable a user, I can delete it, I can make it part of a group, or use an authentication. If I click here on summary, I'm going to have all the details of this information. It's going to be summary, then groups, and finally this authentication. But here I don't have my distinguished name, so I'm leaving it in blank. Okay, I can give a distinguished name for this for this user. But right now, I'm going to leave it as this way. Okay, so we talk in this way, we present this information as this way. Okay, so I believe that about talking about users is the same, so you are not going to have any problem when using all of this stuff. I'm going to move to the part of groups. And in groups, you're going to have some differences here. Okay, so the idea is the same. If I click on one of the groups, I'm going to have all these options available. Okay, so this is one of the options that we using in ProcessMaker. So again, all the interfaces that we use to modify something is by clicking on it. Some options are going to be available, and by applying that, I'm going to be able to edit, delete, or add some users. So that's the main point of using this. Okay, now I'm going to start using, I'm going to create a group, and I'm going to create my group. It's going to be, for instance, my group of expenses. For instance, is one of the options. I'm going to save it. And by creating expenses, I'm going to have all of this. Okay. So what do I need? What do I need to do right now? I have created expenses. Okay. It's one of the groups that I have created, but there is still something pending here. Let's look up to the whole list. We don't have users, and we barely have tasks. At least we don't have either users, neither users, no tasks. So we don't have both things. What do we have to do is to add some users to this task. So I'm going to click here, and in expenses, I'm going to assign users for this group. How do I assign it? I have first clicked. If I go back, I have clicked on the group. Then I click on users. I can also edit again, and it's going to be active, my status. And I'm going to click on users here. And here I'm going to click on assign users. Okay, so if you got here a user list, what will happen? I again click on assign users, and here you're going to have a screen with both sides. On the left side, yeah, it's on the left side in your case, yeah, you are going to have a user list. This list is the available users that I can use to assign my group. Okay, and on the right side, I'm going to have the users that are available to be assigned. So how it works, this, I'm going to click on one user here, and then click here, and it's just like that. But there is another way to assign users. Again, drag and drop. I click here, hold it, and move to the other side. Do you see the sign there that says one selected row? I'm going to leave it here, and again, drag and drop interface to create my group. But if I want to check my user that I created, John, I'm going to use this search text box, And then it's going to be two of them are going to appear, John and John Sanders. So both are active, and I can move both of them. But if I want the two Johns to be assigned, I'm going to click on both of them and drag and drop it. But I can use the same. Click here, press Shift, click again, and click on one of the arrows here. And then I have now my list of available users as before. And I don't have any users from the group. But if I want all the users, I'm just going to click this double arrow, and all of the users are going to be part of this group. Expenses, and then we edit it, and we go again to users and then assign users. Okay, so I'm going to move again and bring back all the users to the old list. Okay, so did you understand this part until this point? Was it clear for you? Do you have any question? Okay. What is a group? A group, in simple words, is a collection of people, of employees. And we define groups not with the purpose to organize our hierarchy. We use that in the purpose of using some more management vision, using the management vision. For instance, if you will want to measure measure the efficiency of a group in answering calls or making some client attention, customer attention. So I can create groups. So that's the purpose of using the groups. Groups do not reflect the hierarchy of our company because we have another tool to reflect that hierarchy. Okay? So this is one of the options available in ProcessMaker. I'm going to click again on groups. And in groups, you are going to find something very interesting. Here in the list, you're going to see that there are 0 users. If I assign users, for instance, Amy and Alicia, now I'm going to return, and you're going to see that I have now 2 users for that group. Okay? But that's not all about using users. I can also click on users, and for instance, I want a user like Hunter, and I can add it in a group as this way. I click on the user, then click on groups, and I'm going to assign a group. And again, we have the same way to assign. We have a list of available groups, and on the other side, the groups where this user can be found. So in this way, we use the same criteria. I'm going to drag and drop a user here, a group, excuse me, a group here, and I'm assigning a group right now. Okay, so in the summary, I can see the summary of this guy, of this employee. I can see the groups, and I can see the authentication again. So that's the way in which we use this part of groups. I'm going to show something more. Hunter belongs to this group called expenses, but I want Hunter to be part of another group here. Okay, now it's it's the finance group. Users can be assigned to many groups. Okay, so the relation can be many groups to one user, or the user can belong to many groups. So that option is possible. That is possible to do it. So that's the way this part of users and groups work. We use users and groups. Well, we use users because we need to run cases, and the final user is going to be part of this section. And then we have groups, and in the case of groups, you can see here, by using groups, I am using a collection of people, and this is going to be for the evaluation of maybe for assessing the quality, assessing efficiency. It's more for management quality purposes that we use groups, also management practices that we want to use. Okay, so that's the way in which we can use the part of groups. But now let's move on. Let's move further. I'm going to click on department here. And departments are going to be radically different in the sense that a user can belong to a department, but just to one department. He can't belong to another place. What are departments? Departments reflect our hierarchy. Departments are used to reflect our hierarchy. So this is more something of how is organized the company, who is the boss, who is going to be in charge of that, and those questions can be answered by using departments. So as you can see here, I have my department names, my status, my manager, and the users that belong to each of the departments. Okay, so if I click here, I can create also sub departments. So how does it work? In this part, what I'm going to do is to create a department. So I'm going to create a department for expenses and a sub-department for sub-expenses. You know that in a classical company, any company in the world, you're going to have a department that depends on other departments. And ProcessMaker is going to do that. It's going to show me that, okay, you have a department, but we can have a sub-department. So the sub-department is going to show you a difference in how we handle this information. So, well, it didn't create my department, so recreate it. Expenses. My sub-department is going to be travel expenses. I'm going to save it. And okay, so we have all of this information right now. What I do here is to use a different approach in assigning users because you're going to see some differences with the groups. So let's see these differences. Just a moment, please. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to include something here. Okay, so I need to assign users here. So I'm going to include to new here. I'm going to include some users. So I'm going to click here on users. And again, it has the same interface that we saw before. It's possible to assign users. And the idea is to apply the same concept that we learned in groups. So I'm going to click on here on assign user. And here we have some users available. These lists that you have on the left side are users that were not selected in any department, and they are part of other departments. Okay, Ken asks me, we have not used this function yet. If we change here, does it affect our process? The only way that it can affect is in the assignment rules if you use a report to assign. I'm going to make you the example here. But let's explain that, and then I'm going to your part, okay? Because I need to explain a little more. But if we modify departments, it doesn't affect your process, except if we use a user assignment rule that is called report to. Just in that case, you're going to have modification, okay? But apart from that, it's going to be typically the same pattern that you're going to follow. There is no going to be any change, okay? No change is going to happen. So how it works? I'm going to assign Francis Bacon, Vasco da Gama, and John Smith. So I have 3 of them. But by default, because the first user was Francis Bacon, the manager is going to be Francis Bacon in this case. But I don't want to set this as manager. It means the boss of that department. So I'm going to unset the manager and set another manager. So that's the way I'm using this user to be my boss for this. Is going to be the boss for this department. So I'm using that criterion to create this department. Now, you told me about, but what happens if does it affect our process? Does it suffer a change? In a process, for instance, in the invoice approval, if you have a change here, you have an assignment rule. And for instance, I'm going to select Vasco da Gama. And well, here I have my assigned user, and I'm going to click on save. And here I decide to apply another assignment rule, and my assignment rule is going to be report to. What it happens when this task is running, it means Vasco da Gama is going to receive an invoice and register all the details of the invoice. If we take as example this process, then Vasco da Gama submits this, and this, because it has the report to assignment rule, is going to send directly to the boss, and Francis Bacon is going to be in charge of that task. Just in that case, you're going to see a modification. So, is it clear this? Is it clear? No more questions about this? Yeah, I'm going to demo it. Okay. Notice this. This is report 2 in assignment rules. And here is going to be the assignment rule called Vasco da Gama. Okay. And I'm going to run the process. I want to run this process again with admin user. Okay. So I'm going to run the case. So okay, username is Vasco, and in the case of Bacon, username. Okay, so I'm going to run the case here. This is the first user. Okay, this is the first user. I'm going to prepare all the details here. Okay, I'm going to designer, then to this one, users. Admin this and save it. And in Francis, I'm going to click on this, edit here, and you're going to check all of this, then to save it. Okay, I'm going to move on, and we run the case. So we go to Vasco here, and in the admin, and we click on new case, and well, I'm going to make it fast. Okay, so I'm going to include my date, then the quantity, headphones. I'm just filling a form as it is. Okay, filling the form and saying that this is personal electronic is being received. Well, this should have field using a trigger, but the trigger is not assigned. So I'm going to submit. Okay. Now, if you see the person in charge of this is Vasco, if we go to the next one, Francis Bacon is going to be in charge of the next task. Do you know how reports to change in this case? We use the criteria of using a department and setting a manager, and the manager of that department is going to be in charge of approve invoice. So is it clear, this part? So is it clear? Do you have any question for this? Okay, so it's very clear. I'm going to move to my admin user. Okay, now if we discuss, we are going to talk about so we have all this information there. Okay, so we have discussed about this. I believe that now everything is clear. Well, there is something more that we need to discuss that is very interesting in ProcessMaker. Did you remember that in the slides that I have given you, I talk about a concept that I talk that is a role-based assignment. Just a moment, I'm going to show you the slides. I'm going to move to my slides here, and well, by doing this, I want to show you what happened with that. So I'm going to move on this on the, where is it? Training. Okay, I'm going to find my slides. Just a moment, please. So I'm finding my slides. Just a moment. Okay, these are my slides. Okay, so we move back. So these are my slides, and I'm going to show you one part of this. We talk about this key concept, role-based access control. So in general, we are going to limit the liberty of access by using this criteria, this concept. We're going to limit the access of a user. So by doing that, I'm telling that a user is going to have a certain number of options, but not all the options. And that's why we use this, the role-based access control. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be like that. I'm going to use this role-based access control. But how do I define this? If I go to admin, I'm going to a part called roles. And in roles, a role is a set of permissions. And in this set of permissions, I tell my user we're going to have access to these options in ProcessMaker. In general, I apply the concept that we talked before. It is the role-based access control. So if I need a user who is going to have just access to the admin menu, I can limit that access by using the permissions and the inclusion of them inside a role and assign this role to a user. But now I'm going to create first the role, then I'm going to assign the permissions, and finally we are going to assign that permission to a user. So I'm going to click on new, and this is going to be for instance PM designer. For instance, PM designer, I prefer to use uppercase to respect the same criteria of defining. Then my code is going to be designer, and my status, I want this role to be active. It means that it is going to be used. Now here I can either select users or permissions for this role. I prefer to use permissions, and then we are going to assign users. So I'm going to click on permissions, and by default I'm going to have login, factory, cases, and report user. Okay, but I don't want that. I'm going to edit my permissions, and I don't want factory, I don't want cases. I just want to see users, and that's all. Just I just want to see users. Here you have the collection of permissions for each purpose that you may need. I'm going to mention some of them. Cases is to see the list of cases and for creating cases. All cases, you see all the cases. Reassign case is for reassigning cases, and supervisor is to become a supervisor. Then you have access to dashboards, you have access to view folders, to add folders, you have for setting up an email, to set up the logo. This we can add it, how to set up a logo. And we can set up a clear cache, This also I need. For the heartbeat, process categories, calendars, set up an email. You can set up a login, set up dashboards, set up the language. So there are plenty of them. There are many of these, and these can be used for any reason or purpose that you need. So if each permission meets your requirements, you're going to use that permission in a specific. So this is the way that we manage our users and the access of control. Okay, so we set up, we can delete the case and so on. So there are many of these processes. You're going to explore by your own, because in the wiki you can find more information. If we go to the wiki page here and we go to the part of roles, there you have all these permissions explained. So we have ProcessMaker admin, ProcessMaker manager, ProcessMaker operator, and so on. By default, I'm going to save this, okay? You know that this is the same criteria of dragging and dropping permissions from the left side to the right side. So it's the same. It's the same criteria. I'm going to move back. I don't have users. I can assign users for this. I'm going to assign a user called Aaron Parks and move back. So now my architect is going to have one user and it has permissions. And all of these are going to be permissions. This user Aaron, is going to be limited in the capacity of access. So I have here the process architect, and I'm going to enter with these credentials. So I go here, Aaron, and here the admin, and let's see the options available. I need to change the password for this user. So just a moment, please. So I'm going to click on Aaron here. And we change the password. So I'm going to use a very simple password here for him and re-enter again. Okay. Now you can see that I just have access to the admin. I can click on plugins, connectors, and then I have users. But I don't have more options available. So there is a restriction in the capacity of options that we have here to use ProcessMaker. So we have that. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the admin user here and move back. So that's the way it works at role. But it's not just like that. There are many things that we can explore about roles. So I'm going to move back on roles. And well, I can assign users by clicking here on users here and click on users. And maybe I'm going to need this one. For instance, another way that I can include a role in a user is by clicking on users, then click on any user here like Ryan, and here modify the role. By default in ProcessMaker there are three types of roles. ProcessMaker admin, this role covers everything, so you have access to everything in ProcessMaker. The other one is operator, and the other one is manager. So by degree of importance, admin is going to be the top, then manager, and finally operating. How do I see all this information of roles? Well, I'm going to move now to my virtual machine. Here, I'm going to unlock, and then I'm going to move to my web browser here. And in here in PHP I'm going to enter my information here. I'm entering to my database, and in the database, if I'm going to create a user, is going to be part of my users here. So I'm going to make users, and you can see that my user, the new one that I created, that I'm going to search here as John. Well, it's one is you will find it here. This one, John Sanders, now is a new created user. As you can see here, it has its own ID and everything, all the features that we have. Okay, so do you have any question until this part? Is everything clear? Okay, so it's clear. Yeah, you Vietnamize the word clear. Yeah. Okay, so this is the part of user assignment. I'm going to make a review right now of everything that we discussed today. And on Wednesday, we are going to enter to LDAP and user experience, both things that we are going to check. And yeah, and so on. Okay, then in the next sessions, you're going to see more about the database, the tables, and the use of data by using this environment, no, by using all this VPM solution. So it's a way in which we handle all we use the PHP as a background language, and for the front-end language, we use JavaScript. So these three languages we use, three resources we use for ProcessMaker. Let's make the review and then we close this session, okay? Any question you ask? We have discussed first about some what controls that we use in ProcessMaker. So in the package delivery process, okay, the package delivery process that we have here, I have created a Dynaform. And in this Dynaform, we have all the fields correct. But we have explored also other web controls such as checkbox that uses a Boolean value. We have also explored the check group that uses an array value, an array type of variable. Then we talked about using suggest, and suggest is going to be a string with options, but is for searching some data. For instance, I say one Thailand, for instance, and apply here, and this is going to be Thailand directly. Okay. Then we apply hidden, and hidden is for other programming purposes. So we use, in that case, we use hidden in that sense. Okay. Then apart from hidden, we use link, and this is to enter some information here. Link is for including an H reference here. And then we discussed about how to include images. And in images, as you can see, properties are going to be very different for each web control. In the case of link, it's very exclusive, this part that says H reference, and is the link of reference that you want to connect. If I'm going to use a name here like link 00001 and make the preview, and then use a display text, it's going to be link my display text. This is going to derive me to the website that I have configured. In images, I'm going to use a source. It works as the same in HTML, that you have to enter an image here, a source of the image, and then it's going to be shown. So that's the way it works. Okay. Finally, we discussed about these two last controls. File that has the file type and is for uploading one file, and then multiple file where we can attach many files using multiple file. Then we also saw the subform, and in subforms I'm going to include a dynaform inside another dynaform. Okay, so you've got this. Yeah, I can show you a demo for image control. This. Okay, you have here image. You enter a source here, and I'm going to use the source of my wiki page here, because it's the point is that it's more accessible to copy the link address for this image. So I'm going to copy the image address here, and then I'm going to paste it on source. By that, I'm going to make the preview, and you can see here the image. About file control, okay, and here I'm going to, this is for attaching a file. Okay, so you got this part on just that. And for multiple files, I can choose many files here. Part, for instance, these two files, the start event. And you have, if I'm going to modify the properties of this start event, file is going to upload just one file. There is a possibility, and I can obtain from that a file from this case, hourly, even daily, monthly, one day time, where I can download a unique file. So multiple file is going to allow me to include many files. At the beginning, we had just file. Then we included multiple file for including more files. About the input document control, the allowed extension, yes, you can have any extension. You can include any extension. We're going to check that when designing. You're going to see that in the when using an input document, I'm moving forward just for a while. You can use any extension here. For uploading, for downloading, you're going to have just two extensions: the typical Word extension and the PDF extension. We talk about all the web controls such as panel and support. So I'm going to erase all of this. We have also discussed that we can download a PO file, and then we can start doing some. We can download a file, translate it, and upload a PO file extension. By doing that, I'm going to have that file, and then I can use it on the preview to check that now it can be a Spanish. I can modify the language. Yeah. Well, about that, moving back to allowed file extensions. Yeah, you have many extensions of that. So yeah, it's here in input documents. You have plenty of them. Okay. Okay. So those are now the topics that we have discussed about Dynafrons, and then we move on to the admin. And in admin, we learn how to create a user by clicking on new and then adding all this personal information. Then we click on groups, we created a group, and then we assign some users. PNG file. Well, yeah, you're asking me about the PNG file, isn't it? A PNG file can be uploaded. I know. Yeah, it's extension that we use. Yeah, it can pass. Yeah, but it is very different. We should use the in uppercase. It's a very sensitive case, this. So we should use PNG, the extension in lowercase instead of uppercase. Yeah, and well, yeah, it's very sensitive case. We should use in that way. Then we have departments, and here we learn that we can create a department, but a user can belong just to one department. And finally, we check about roles. So all the roles is a set of permissions where we can find a degree of liberty in action in ProcessMaker. So, do you have any question until this point? How long have you been using ProcessMaker? Okay, so by now we have closed this session. See you on Wednesday. We're going to continue with that. And I wish if you have many comments on this. It has been a pleasure to start the first week with you. We're going to have some extra. I can call you. No, not it's not extra, but we're going to have some extra features, extra explanations if you need. Okay, so I believe that everything is okay. So I'm going to close the session. Okay.